Yeah, I think the Olympics was a big one in London because that had been so far down the road. Obviously, they announced the Olympics in London 2007. But when I achieved it, I won the Tour de France and I won the Olympics 10 days later. I don't think it's ever going to get any better than this, and I don't know what I'm going to do now, really. And that was the reality of it, really. Is I was almost annoyed that it was over because I had nothing else. I had no daily routine after that, what to do. I didn't know what I was getting out of bed for in the morning. The main thing that drove me throughout my cycling career was fear. And that emotion was fear, really. And so when I look back, the fear, I never knew where it stemmed from, really. I was always a scared person, really, most of the time when I was going into events, going into Olympic finals and things, and it was always the fear of losing. And that fear of losing was something that stemmed from my childhood, really. I don't know why. I haven't really dealt with that yet, but it's certainly when I looked back at my career, there was no joy. There was no enjoyment. There was no enjoying the moment, the success. It was like ticking a box, and winning became the normal. Winning became the standard, and it was always the case of moving on to the next thing. And when I didn't have something to move on to, I'd slip away and start drinking and things like that. So I get bored very easy. So I needed something to occupy my mind, really, and focusing on an objective which was far enough away down the distance that I could go through a process and occupy myself in the process and keep myself busy. Routine for me and distraction and having a goal on something was a great distraction from dealing with looking at myself.
So would you say that reaching that pinnacle of success, which I'm sure you would equate to being, winning the time trials at the Olympics in 2012, Tour de France triumph, were they the moments where you had to start examining that and go, oh, well, I've done the things I wanted to do, now what?
Yeah, I think the Olympics was a big one in London because that had been so far down the road. Obviously, they announced the Olympics in London 2007. So that had always been like a long-term objective, 5 years, really. But when I achieved it, I won the Tour de France and I won the Olympics 10 days later. And I think I said to Matt Dawson at the finish of 5 Live, give me an interview, and I said, I don't think it's ever going to get any better than this, and I don't know what I'm going to do now, really. And that was the reality of it, really. Is I was almost annoyed that it was over because I had nothing else. I had no daily routine after that, what to do. I didn't know what I was getting out of bed for in the morning. So I slipped for the next 5 or 6 months after that, really, into kind of playing this character, and I was famous and I didn't know how to handle it. So I played this kind of veil of a rock star kind of thing. And that was just from my insecurity, really, and adopted something that I perceived to be quite cool. But yeah, I never really got back to the heights after that. I won things after that and won world titles and things like that. But in terms of like a mental, kind of achievement, that was as good as it ever got. But then I decided the Olympics in Rio was going to be my last Olympic Games. And I got to that and I knew I was pretty much going to retire then. I was done pretty much. I craved normality, but I didn't know what normal life was for me, really. So I struggled ever since then. I went into rowing after that. I took up rowing with a view to maybe try and make another Olympic team in rowing, but I was chasing I was chasing my tail on that one because you don't pick up rowing just overnight. It took many years. So it's I struggled after that, really, yeah. And then I think from that point on, then I started addressing myself really, and dealing with stuff that had happened in my childhood that I hadn't accepted.
So that's really been a time of healing from that moment where everyone would assume you're on top of the world. It's the best day of your life. That was almost the start of something unraveling.
Yeah. I mean, my career, I'm proud of it and it means a lot to me, but it doesn't define me. And I think it's not something now that I sit back and look on and sort of think, God, they were the best years of my life. They were just, I think whatever I do now is almost going to, like this stuff that I'm doing now has been much more rewarding, really, much more fulfilling as a person. But it's a funny thing, I just think, lots of people don't accept and deal with things that they did until they get older. I didn't because I had to adopt a persona which was one of a sportsman, really, which you could not be perceived to have any weaknesses or any dinks in your armour, and so you've got to be too cool for school the whole time, really, and you can't let your guard down 1 minute. And it's obviously once you stop and that's gone, I just had to start. I think a lot of it to do with, well, my son is a cyclist now, really, and he got to the age of 13 and I started, it was like looking in the mirror. He started having coaches and things around him, and then I realised what norm is, what normality should be, really. I think that's when I started addressing sort of certain things that had happened to me, really, and then the abnormality of my childhood, really, and how it shouldn't have been like that. But at the same time, you know, we're all products of our childhood and products of our environment, and I wouldn't have achieved what I achieved, and I wouldn't be the person I'm sat here today had I not had that. So, and I'm not alone, and I think that's one of the things as well. Once you start talking about this stuff, you realise you're not alone.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the most liberating thing.
Yeah, without a doubt.
You know, something that was your greatest embarrassment and shame, which is one of the reasons why you don't talk about a lot of these things, is something that actually makes you is the most empowering thing for you when you do come and talk about it and start speaking to people, and then see the opportunity available to you after that in terms of what you want to do at work. Because one of the other things as well, once I stopped cycling, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in my life. So I went on the jump to begin with, hated it. And then I went down the whole avenues of like corporate speaking, you know, keynote speaking and things like that. But nothing was really hitting the spot and rewarding me and fulfilling me. And funnily enough, it's the stuff I've been doing recently, launched a campaign for the NSPCC and stuff. The stuff that isn't paid work that has been the most rewarding, the most fulfilling.
Yeah, which is service.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and like you say, like connecting. And I wonder how much of that has helped you move through very tricky situations, because your work with the NSPCC is motivated personally because you suffered abuse when you were a teenager from one of your coaches.
Yes.
That is obviously something that is going to take years of healing and processing. Where are you with that? How do you feel today about having to face that period of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think the hardest point was going through the campaign stuff and in recall, doing interviews about it, you know, and drawing on your experience to help the campaign. And I actually struggled quite a lot that period, and I didn't realise it more than anything. It's just, you know, I was having to relive some of the minor incidents that happened to me with this coach to newspapers like the Express, and that just to draw, in order to help the campaign, in order to draw experience and kind of add weight to the campaign, I drew on one or two of the sort of lesser minor incidents, if you could call them that happened to me. Because one of the things that I realised with this happened over a 3-year period. I can't remember how many times it happened. And we're talking sort of incidents from very minor to like borderline, which you could deem as rape, sexual abuse, whatever term you want to use. But it just in recalling this sort of stuff and going on your own experiences to add weight to the campaign and doing interviews and trying to really beef it up, I found that I was it took me back, and I was recalling lots of the incidents that happened in my head over and over again, particularly this guy's face. And it really hit me hard the week after that, really. So I have to be careful how much I do in order to help other people, and at the expense of myself, really, because I probably took it for granted a little bit that I was through this and I was fine. You know, I guess, as you say, there's lots of different there's a timeline with it, and there's a process to go through. And I was probably earlier in that process than I thought I was,